The market is the greatest wealth building tool, and you're currently missing out. In today's video, I'm going to show you guys my income and expense and explain to you guys how I invest 60% of my income into the market. And lastly, I'm going to explain to you guys why it's so important and so critical that you learn how to properly invest your money in the market. So I value your time. With that being said, let's get right into it. All right, before I break down my income and expense, I want to clarify that in no way, shape, or form am I trying to brag about how much money I make. The whole purpose of this video is whether you can only invest 1% of your income or you can invest 99% of your income. It's all about building proper habits and learning how to properly invest your money. So with that being said, let's break it down. All right, so to give you guys some background, I currently work as an engineer and I graduated college in 2024. So as of right now, I'm currently making about $115,000 a year. So after taxes and my 401k deductions and insurance and things of that nature, I take home about $6,540 a month, or roughly $3,270 every 2 weeks. All right, so now let's break down my expense. So starting off, I pay about $60 a month for my car insurance. I have about $250 allocated for miscellaneous expenses. So this can vary from month to month. I may not use the whole $250. I may use more or less, right? It just kind of depends on what's going on that month. So next, I have about $10 a month that I spend on my Ring camera subscription. On top of this, I have about $80 that I spend on offering every single month for my church. My phone bill is about $51. And then I spend $27 on my gym membership at Planet Fitness every single month. I spend $22 on my Photoshop membership to make my thumbnails for my YouTube video. I spend roughly about $100 on gas every single month. My Canva subscription is $12. Spotify is $12. And my rent plus utilities is about $1,550 every single month. Now, I know you guys are wondering, well, how much money do you spend on groceries, right? I mean, you got to eat. So thankfully, I do live with my spouse, right? My girlfriend. I cover the rent, utilities, and she covers the groceries. So this helps me out a lot, helps us out a lot in saving money so we can invest and save as much as possible. So with that being said, the total does come out to $2,174 every single month for my expenses. All right, so now when we total everything up, I take home about $6,540 every single month. I spend about $2,174 every single month, which leaves me with a net income of $4,366. So of that $4,366, I like to throw $4,000 into the market every single month if possible, and then I'll keep the rest in my bank account. All right, so you guys can see my expense isn't really too crazy, right? I live a pretty frugal life. I don't try to spend a lot of money. I try to save and invest as much as possible so I can have more options in the foreseeable future. But this brings up the next question. How do I actually allocate all of my money? Well, let's break it down and let's take a look. All right, so starting off, the most important thing that everyone should have is to make sure that you have an emergency fund. So currently right now, I have about $15,000 in a high yield Capital One saving account that's giving me a yield of about 3.4% every single year. So at this stage of my life, I don't see the need to have more than $15,000 in cash, which is why I set that limit. So that's going to vary from person to person, depending on your situation. So next, I have my trading account. You guys know on this channel, I do a lot of options trading, right? This is a lot more high risk stuff, which is why I have a separate account dedicated to this. But I think it's really important, once you learn how the market works, to be able to capitalize on good opportunities, right? To make more money through options or, leverage stocks or things of that nature. So I have an account dedicated to that. And I currently have about $61,000 in that account. So after this, my last and final account is my long-term account. So currently right now I have about $8,000 in this. And in this account, I strictly only buy stocks or I buy ETFs like SPMO, right? Things that have historically performed really well. Or if I buy options, the market has to be down like 10-20%, right? In the S&P 500. I may buy leaps, like long-term options. But basically, I'm buying things that I want to hold for a very long time, right? And there's very minimal risk in what I'm buying. So this is where I throw my extra $4,000 a month into, right? I'll buy stocks, or like I said, I'll buy ETFs. And the goal is to feed this account as much as possible and grow it as much as possible, as safely as possible. All right, so let's break down what I just explained. So the first thing is, and the most important thing is, make sure you have an emergency fund saved up, right? Life is going to throw things at you that you don't see coming with all experiences. So it's always good to make sure you have some type of emergency cash saved up. And try to have in a high yield saving account. At least this way you can have your money making money for you as it's just sitting there. Number two, if you're going to do any type of trading or any type of high risk bet or any type of high risk thing in the market at all, right? Make sure you have a separate account dedicated to that. My biggest mistake that I've made in the past few years is that I had one account dedicated to long-term and short-term, like trading or investing. And what happened was things that should have been long-term investments, I did like short-term trades on them, I would lose money, right? Well, if I would have just held them from a long time or think from a long-term perspective, I would have made money. So make sure you separate those two things because it's more like a psychological thing. when you have both of them mixed up, you make bad decisions, right? Whether it should have been a short-term investment or it should have been a long-term investment, you get those things mixed up. So if you don't want to trade or you don't want to take a lot of risk in the market, it's fine just to have a single account just dedicated to long-term investing, because that's typically going to work for most investors. So this brings up the final question. Why should you even invest your money? Why is this even important at all? Let's answer that question. So the simple answer to this question is because of time. So let's play out a simple scenario that most people are going to experience in their lives. Let's say you go to high school, you graduate high school, right? Now everybody's pushing you to go to college. So you go to college with the objective of getting a degree so that you could potentially land a job or a good paying job after college, right? Most people, after they land a job after college, if they land a job after college, they're normally going to work for a very long time in their life with the objective of hopefully retiring, right, when they're 60, 70 years old, having enough money allocated at that time. So the question really becomes, how do you fast track that process? And the only way you can fast track that process is by finding a way to make more money without giving up more time. So how do you make more money without giving up more time? One of the best ways and most proven ways to do that is to invest in the stock market, right? It's not the only way, but it's one of the best and most proven ways of fast tracking that process. So this is why it's so important to invest your money, right? Whether it's 1% or 99%. Like I said earlier in the video, we're all in different chapters of our life. So some people may be able to put in more than others. But the whole point is that it's all about building the habit and getting comfortable with letting your money work for you. Because the main objective is to protect your time. Time is the only thing in this world, or one of the few things in this world, that you can never get back again, right? So your objective in life, it should be to find a way to make more money without giving up more time. And how do you do that? By learning how to make your money work for you in the stock market, right? One of the greatest wealth building tools ever created. And unfortunately, there are two main scenarios that I've typically seen in my life. Either somebody has somebody that's in their lives that knows how the stock market works and they're able to teach them that, or you're just a really curious person and you learn how to, you utilize things like YouTube, Google, right? Your resources to learn how the stock market works. But you'd be surprised how many people in this life will go their whole entire life without knowing how the stock market works or what a stock even is, right? And you realize just how much opportunity and how much time they're giving up by not knowing that knowledge. So it's really important that you understand how this works and you try to learn how this works and you make your money work for you. So I hope this video was valuable to somebody. I'm really obsessed with just saving time, finding a way how to optimize my time as much as possible. And I hope this video made you realize that that's important too, right? And that's something that you should look into. So if you find it valuable, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.